Good afternoon, everyone. In today's video, I thought it would be interesting to take a look at not only all of the stock volatility box trades that we had set up, but then dive deep into one particular symbol, which is Boeing, to really talk about all the different setups that we had. So we had squeeze setups, we had trending setups, we had a fade setup. And so I want to break each of these down in a way that hopefully you can pick and choose based off of what fits your trading style, as well as just discuss them so there's a good visual representation of all these different setups. Now, starting off first with a high-level overview of all the trades that we had hit our Volatility Box live scanner. This is a machine that we've built. If I show you real quick, it's inside of our Volatility Box platform where this will update real time every 15 seconds or so with a list of new stocks that hit our Volatility Box edges, whether they hit on the aggressive or conservative Volatility Box model, and whether they're a long or short with a specific open time along with open price. That's what this list contains right here. So now based off of all the stocks that hit our live scanner, we have two very simple criteria for them to be on this list. One, they needed to be between 6:30 and 10 a.m. Pacific, meaning you had enough time for follow through from when stocks breach our volatility box edge to get the follow through to our targets. And then the second one is they needed to be on this live scanner for at least 3+ minutes, meaning that you had an opportunity to actually get in as opposed to something that just touches the wick in terms of our volatility box line and then bounces from there and hits its target. That's not something that you could really capture and participate in. So 3+ minutes is a nice way to try and filter some of those out. Now, in terms of the trades, we had 10 aggressive long trades, 60% win rate there. Net P&L of positive 48 cents per share. So that's good. As long as this number is above zero, that's what we like to see. Aggressive shorts, we had the most trade opportunities here, 23 trades, 73.9% win rate, positive 425. Conservative longs, 3 trades, 100% win rate, so all 3 were winners. Net P&L of 65 cents per share. And then finally, conservative shorts, 1 trade. That trade was a loser, negative 26 cents per share on that trade. So all in all, a pretty interesting day in terms of trading with the volatility box. In case you're curious of all the trades that hit the live scanner that were factored into that table, here's part 1 of the list, and then here's part 2 of the list. And particularly, we're going to pay attention to Boeing. Now, Boeing hit our live scanner for an aggressive short, but I thought there were a lot of different interesting setups going on here, different clues that you could have gathered in terms of trending trades, in terms of fade trades, and then it's also going to hit our nightly trending list for tomorrow for all of our stock volatility box members. So 3 total trade ideas there, which I'll cover in just a second. All right, so here I have a chart of Boeing. We're going to start off with the daily time frame chart here first. And the first thing I'd like to point out is this notion of finally going from a stage of deceleration to potentially going into a stage of acceleration. Now, to highlight what I mean, if we come all the way back to the beginning of this year, really, since we had the news of Boeing hit with the 737 MAX, all the bad news that really started to bring the stock down lower, you'll see that reflected in the actual technical indicators right here, actually, right? So if you take a look prior to this level right here, you'll notice the market pulse line, which this is a free indicator, was mostly red, suggesting we were in a period of deceleration. We saw that red really sometimes trickled down into gray, but really just kept going back down to red. And this happened for really all the way through May to June even, right? Then once we saw June turn around, we saw that the market pulse here finally started to go green for a little bit before again getting hit with a barrage of red, right? And so only recently here did we see that once again, the market pulse has started to go green, where last time you'll notice once we had this transition from red to gray to green, then the stock continued to go up for a little bit, came back down, pulled back a little. Typically, we would expect the stock to jump up from there as long as we see a green edge signal arrow. That came right here, which was then really broken, I would argue. We ended up seeing bearish activity, and now we have yet another attempt where we're trying to see if we can get some more bullish theme behind the stock. The thing to call out here, though, is we have a market pulse here on a daily time frame, suggesting to us that we're in a stage of acceleration. Now let's bring this down to a 1-minute chart. Now, if we take a look compared to Friday's close to today's open here, you'll notice we gapped up higher today. Once we gapped up, we really just continued to rally in the bullish direction. So from the open right here, if we take the low to the high, I think we were already up something like 3.5 odd percent. Right, so if I take our trend line tool here, 3.43%, and that's without the gap. If you take the close on Friday to today's high in that first before 7 a.m. Pacific, the stock was up more than 5.73%. All of this suggested, again, and more bullish activity. Now, the first signal that you had in terms of a trigger is where you had price action here, rally, then we started to pull back to the market post line, really take a breather, and then we had a squeeze signal that hit our squeeze signal scan. Now, to give you an idea of what that looks like, it's really overbought, oversold conditions along with the actual squeeze. So you'll notice right down here, I have the squeeze plotted. Squeeze is forming around sideways. Looks like we're starting to gather bullish momentum here, which you then saw that same bullish momentum translated with a bullish market post line, a bullish squeeze signal, and then bullish momentum right down here, which led to the squeeze firing. So that's the first setup to talk about. It's this notion of a bullish squeeze signal plus a bullish market pulse line. Also make sure to link a video in which this goes into a little bit more depth in case you're curious around more information for this setup. But that was setup number one. Now the question starts to become, where do you have your targets here? Now one notion for those of you that don't have the volatility box, or one idea, excuse me, is you can take the swing high to the swing low here, use the extension, so the 1272, the 1618, and the 200%, which you'll notice all three of those were hit, but more often than not here, you left some money on the table. Now, for all of our volatility box members, this is where I think the stock volatility box really starts to give you an edge. It's where you expect this sort of a trending move to really take place, and you want to try and find a place in which you expect price to exhaust and then even reverse. So that's where the volatility box comes into play. So if I load in our stock volatility box here, you'll notice as soon as we add in some context, the charts become a lot cleaner here. So this is the same place where we were looking at the potential squeeze signal, expecting a bullish move here. And you'll notice that price action from that point rallies right into our volatility box target line. That's the first zone. So for anyone looking to participate long, this is the first place in which you take off targets, a repeated theme that we've been talking about in videos. Then this line right here, the beginning of the volatility box clouds, is where we're typically looking at getting short. This is where if price action breaches this, that's where it appears on our live scanner. And then outside of the volatility box right here is where we would have our stop. So that's to give you an idea of what the short setup there looks like. So with this long setup here, the first target is really where that short target is. The second zone to try and peel off more shares or contracts is the beginning of the volatility box. This is where normally we'd be looking at getting short anyways, right? So it makes sense to take profits on a long when you're typically looking at trying to look at potential reversal. And then finally, the third place, if we did hit it, would be the outer edge of the volatility box. Now, in the case of Boeing here, you'll notice price action rallied into our first area, took a breather one more time, dripped down a little bit. Then again, we went on and we hit the actual entry of the volatility box where we're now looking at a short. So the setup here, the first one is complete, right? This was the squeeze setup looking for a trending play into the volatility box lines. Now, once we hit our volatility box cloud right here, we're looking for a move away from the volatility box. So the setup there is once price action breaches the clouds, which happened right here in this candle, that's where it appears on our live scanner. We're then looking for an edge signal confirmation, this time on the bearish scale, since we're looking for a reversal away from the clouds. We see two signals right here, which is then our sign to get in. We had an opportunity to enter at the clouds or better. You also had to deal with a little bit of heat right here, right, with price action going a little bit into the clouds. And from that point, really the trade is a go. So our entries at the clouds, our stop is outside of the volatility box clouds, and then our target is at the gray target line right here. It's a pretty self-managing trade. So once that happens, we see price action chops around sideways, goes a little inside of the clouds, and then comes and hits our first target. Once we hit the first target, the stop is moved from outside of the clouds to break even, and then we're really looking to see how low is low. Now to give you an idea of how low Boeing actually ended up going from the actual entry point right here, so let me get the trend line tool one more time. So from the actual entry point, you'll see Boeing fell right around 1.81% before having a reversal, and Boeing came right back up to our entry zone, and into the close, we tagged it one more time. Now, really, this is where Boeing now starts to get really interesting on our nightly trending list. That's the third and final setup I'll talk about in this video, where we're now looking at Boeing for continuing this bullish play as long as we break above the outer edge of the clouds in the first 15 minutes. So now to give you an idea of what that looks like, so we can come into our dashboard here. Let me go ahead and pull up Boeing. So on the dashboard here, you'll notice the outer edge of the clouds, which is our short stop, SS. You can also see that in terms of the breakdown right here, is at 203.43. Come back in here on the clouds, 203.43 lines up exactly with the outer edge of the clouds. Those levels should always line up. And that's the price that we're expecting price action to break above in terms of a bullish scale. So if price action goes above 203.43 by 6:45 a.m. Pacific without any sort of weird gap where you don't really have any edge, so we want an entry as close to 203.43 as possible, then that's a go. That's a trade in which we're looking for Boeing to continue in the bullish direction. The stop here, a good stop place looks like outside of this pivot point right here. So really right around the target line, and you're looking for that same move in the opposite direction from the actual target, looking to see if we can make that move not only in the bullish trending direction, but then continue to really rinse and repeat the same exact setup, right? So now if again you see Boeing continue to trend up in the bullish scale, that's where the volatility box starts to give you a place again to try and find potential targets for that long trade and look for a reversal and really just keep rinsing and repeating this until it really just stops working. That's the trade setup right there. But at the very least right here, you'd be looking at Boeing to try and give you at least a follow through of right around 1.4, 1.5% in the bullish direction based off of tomorrow's open if we open above 203.43. So hopefully this gives you an idea of not only how to use the daily market pulse, switches on that to try and influence bias, but then drill down to a 1 minute chart, try and play moves into the volatility box levels using things like the squeeze signals indicator with that market pulse setup, along with then try and play moves away from the volatility box using our actual bread and butter volatility box setup, and then finally use all this information together to try and create a game plan for tomorrow based off of stocks that hit our nightly trending list. For all of our stock volatility box members, Boeing is one of a couple other stocks that are going to be on this list, which will be sent out again in the evening as we usually do Monday through Thursday. All right, hope this video helps. Good luck trading, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at contact@tosindicators.com. And otherwise, we'll see you in the next update. Take care and good luck trading the rest of this week.